Fiat 131 was a family car produced and promoted by Fiat from 1974 to 1984. After its presentation at the 1974 Turin Motor Show. Available as a 2-door and 4-door saloon and 5-door estate across a single generation, the 131 succeeded the Fiat 124. The 131 was also marketed as the Fiat Mirafiori, after the Turin suburb where the cars were manufactured. Initially, the 131 was offered with 1.3-liter and 1.6-liter overhead valve engines, and the range received revisions in 1978 and 1981. Fiat 131 used steel monocoque bodywork for its 3-box design and used a front engine, rear-wheel drive layout, where the engine is longitudinally front-mounted. The gearbox is directly behind the engine, and a tubular propeller shaft, under the transmission tunnel, transmits the drive to a solid live rear axle. The engines were all inline 4 types, derived from those used in the outgoing 124 range, with a cast iron cylinder block and aluminium alloy cylinder head. Initially the 131 was offered only with pushrod valve gear, which offered the innovation of being the worldwide first engine with OHV valve gear and a belt-driven camshaft. Only later in the model's life came the well-known double overhead camshaft, DOHC, engines which used a toothed timing belt. Fuel supply was via a single Weber ADF twin-choke carburetor, fed from a trunk-mounted steel fuel tank. Traditional contact breaker ignition systems were used, usually with Marelli distributors. The suspension system utilized fully independent front suspension, with McPherson struts, track control arms and anti-roll bar. The rear suspension was quite advanced, when using a solid live rear axle, in that the rear axle was controlled by double unequal length trailing arms and a pan-hard rod, with coil springs and direct-acting dampers. This design proved far superior to many of its contemporaries, especially with respect to vehicle stability and handling. The braking system was also typical. The front brakes were disc brakes, using a solid iron disc and a single piston sliding caliper. The rears were drum brakes, a technological backward step from the 124, which used discs all round, utilizing a leading and trailing shoe design operated by a dual piston fixed slave cylinder. They were operated hydraulically, with a tandem master cylinder assisted by a vacuum servo using 2 separate circuits. A rear-mounted load-sensing valve varied the bias of effort applied to the rear brakes, dependent on the load being carried, and also the pitch dynamics caused by braking effort and road levels. A centrally located floor-mounted handbrake operates on the rear axle using Bowden cables.